Hey everyone, it's Neil Langston today. Today we're going to be talking about what Lions will go to the Super Bowl. So, first off to go is, of course, we have so much talent. We have the talent to go with the Super Bowl with Aiden Hutchinson, who's one of the best defensive players in the NFL. We have Jameson Williams, who's really coming together. We have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's been one of the best slot receivers in football, if not one of the best receivers in football in the last year. We had Sam Laporta, who was arguably the best tight end last season. We had Brian Branch, who was amazing for us last year and has really come together himself this past year. And we have Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery, who I think is going to be the best running back too in the NFL, and I think they practically were last year. And we have Jared Goff, who was the top 10 quarterback last year, and we have so on and so forth. We have so many players: Lee McNeil, Jack Campbell, and we should be good this year. We are too talented not to compete for a Super Bowl at the very least. Of course, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Our loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We had coaching failures, a whole lot of things. We didn't run the ball when we should have. We passed the ball 55 times. It looked ugly. Even though we had more yards on offense than the Buccaneers did, we got crushed. But I think that's going to be kind of good for us in a way. For one, it shows that we have some failures going on right now in coaching. We had some poor decisions at the head coaching level. And of course, we didn't have the best offensive game plan, throwing 55 times, even though there was an injured Vita Vea, an injured Kalijah Cansey, no Antoine Winfield. We should have been doing a lot better and been really pounding the rock, for example. And Dan Campbell acknowledges at the end of his press conference saying that this was a coaching thing. But I think even on a player level, this will be huge. This is really a humility game. Aiden Hutchinson talked about how last year versus the Seahawks it was all doom and gloom when we lost. That we weren't going to be good. That we weren't going to get anywhere deep in the playoffs even if we did make it. Of course, they came back. It was a humility game. It's going to be the thing that turns it all around. I think it's going to be the thing that improves coaching, and it's going to improve effort, and it's going to take away maybe a little bit of the pride and the want to make flashy plays. This is going to be the thing that really turns around this team, I think. Of course, we also have players having all sorts of success. Aiden Hutchinson, as we know, he's being the best defensive player in the NFL. Right now, Aiden Hutchinson has 5 sacks, he has 18 pressures, he has 14 pass rush wins. His pass rush win rate is nearly 50% at 42.3%. He's basically leading the lead in every single pass rushing stat, and he's great against the run. And of course, we have Levi Onwuzurike, who he's been quite the secret weapon that I was talking about. He had 3 total quarterback pressures in week 2 with a sack, a quarterback hit, and a quarterback hurry. Levi is ranked 8th for total pressures this season, which ranks 5th for all interior defensive linemen. So he's being not just a top pass rusher at the defensive tackle spot, but being a top 10 pass rusher in general for pressures. So we got him going around, and he's versatile. We've seen him play defensive end, defensive tackle. And we didn't even have Marcus Davenport. So, we're going to see more and more, and we're going to see more reps, and Levi's going to get better. Liam's going to get better. We're going to see a lot of good things. We haven't really seen Josh Pascal really get used yet. So we have that going. And then we have Jameson Williams, who's having himself quite a year. Here's a little fun stat. The only receivers in NFL history to total 200-plus receiving yards and 25-plus rushing yards for their first 2 games of the season is Jameson Williams, Santana Moss, Larry Fitzgerald, Isaac Bruce, Jerry Rice, and Homer Jones. And Homer Jones is a player from 1967, so that's just one of those fun stats they found over there. Jameson Williams is tied second for most receiving yards this year for receivers. He's going crazy. And then we have Brian Branch, and we all knew he was going to be good. Out of defensive backs since 2022, most forced incompletions plus pass breakups this year, Brian Branch is the number 1 DB on that stat. He's more than Quinyon Mitchell, more than Jalen Watson, more than anybody. Brian Branch leads the league in pass breakups with 5. And here's some other great stats for Brian Branch. 86.1 defensive grade, second among all safeties, second highest grade of his career. 83.5 coverage rate, that's second in the league. 25.0 passer rating, 4th among targeted safeties. He's had 2 defensive stops, and he's played 48 snaps, which is 100% of the snaps. So he's going off. He also had his pick against Baker. We have players having success. And imagine what we can do once we get it all together, we see more stuff get out. Once we improve our scheme, once we see Tim Patrick start to really get into it, and we have more receiving options, we can see Laporta get healthy. We saw Dan Campbell talking about how Laporta's usage has mainly been because of an injury he had in camp. We have the pieces to be good. This is why we're going to go to the Super Bowl. Once we get this all figured out, we are going to be the best team in the NFL. I think we're going to be even better than last year, especially because we have a fully good Jameson Williams. I think Tim Patrick, I think he's better than Josh Reynolds, or at least as good if he's healthy and plays like his Denver self. We have success here, and we're going to build that off with the other players that we mentioned from our talent. One last thing that's going to be good. It's going to be really helpful. This is one of the reasons I was talking about with Tampa. This is going to be one of the things that's been nice about these first 2 weeks, and maybe you're showing some of our flaws. We know what isn't working. We're not kind of barely squeaking away wins like the Steelers or the Vikings did a couple years ago. We had that loss, and we had the tough battle against LA, and so we do know what isn't going to work. So let's look at Jared Goff's passing chart right here. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 8, maybe 9 passes, either at the line of scrimmage or below, and most of his passes versus Tampa below the 10-yard line. And this isn't just because Jared Goff is playing super nervous or something. We see quite a few passes around the 20-yard line. We had this throw to Jameson Williams. We had the throw in week 1 for Jameson Williams. And we know Goff isn't afraid to throw it deep right now, or that he's even not capable of making it. We got to make sure that we're not being too flashy, and we're not just doing dump offs, and we're not abandoning the run game, which that's one thing I want to talk about. In both games, we should have ran the ball a lot more. Neither of our running backs last week got 15 rushing attempts. Jahmyr Gibbs was having himself quite a game, multiple 20-yard runs. He barely got the run ball. Even though we had an injured Vita Vea and we had no Kalijah Kancey, we passed the ball 55 times. And Dan Campbell said us to open up the run game, which didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me in general, but also especially if we were doing it 55 times against a team that did not have a healthy D-line. So we know we can't throw the ball so many times, and we need to go for the momentum, which is our running game right now. But we also know it's not just the offense that needs some stuff to work on. Of course, the defense is playing much better this year. We're getting a lot more pressure. We're seeing greater play from Hutchinson. We are seeing some upgrades there at the safety spot with Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch both getting a pick. But our corners need some work. Terrion Arnold has had himself a very interesting start to the year. He's had his 3 pass interference calls or 3 penalties called on him so far. And of course, I'm a big believer in Terrion Arnold. I'm not trying to tear him down, but right now he has an 83.3% completion percentage. He's allowed 99 yards, 1 touchdown, and 128 passer rating. And you may be thinking, well, what about Carlton Davis? You know, the guy we traded for, the guy that we've been hyping up a long time. Now, granted, in Carlton Davis' defense, before I say any of this, you know, he didn't play in the preseason, but he's right now at 61.1% completion percentage, 156 yards. He's an 89.1. So a little bit better than Terrion Arnold, but not the cornerback 1 numbers that we were hoping to see. Of course, then you may be asking about Amik Robertson, you know, a guy who I think just about everybody likes. I like him. All the fans I see online like him. The coaches like him. He's being the only reliable corner. He is not allowed 30 yards this season. He only allowed 19 yards last week. He has a 40% completion percentage and 0 touchdowns. So right now, our top 2 outside corners are being targeted. So we need to figure out something with our scheme, whether it's getting Arnold to not commit penalties or Carlton Davis to kind of push up his production. Maybe we need to play more press. Maybe we need to play more man. Maybe we need to start playing different sets. But we know what isn't working is what's going on with our corners. We also need to make sure that we don't go too overboard with it, because sometimes plays will be trying to make a play. That can cause missed tackles, so we need to avoid that. We need good corner production if we're going to do this, especially because we have a famed secondary coach, Aaron Glenn, who was a corner in his time in the NFL. We need to fix this. If we're going to go to the Super Bowl, we're probably going to be facing someone like Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. We're going to be facing Baker Mayfield again. We're going to be facing good quarterbacks. And you can't go to the Super Bowl if you don't have good cornerback play from at least one of your right side corners. So we need to fix that, and so that way we can conquer this. We need to figure out a way to also conquer when we get quarterback pressure. I'm sure a lot of you guys have noticed, especially in that Rams game, quarterbacks are able to just dump it right off. We need to figure out, maybe we're playing too far back, maybe we're putting too much players to go for a pass rush move. We need to learn to counter those weaknesses, and it's good that we know that now, so we can, before we figure that out when it's playoff time or towards the end of the seasons, we can fix it now. And I think this is going to be the reason why we get a Super Bowl. We know the players are doing well. We know what the players need to work on in order to get better, and we're going to adjust, we're going to get better, and we're going to go to the Super Bowl. We got this, guys. One pride.